November 9th, 2014, from the Coliseum in Oakland, California. It was the Denver Broncos at the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders won the toss and they elected to defer, so the Broncos would take over first. They picked up a first down on their first play as Manning hit Thomas for a 10-yard pass, Julius Thomas. But then on first down on the Denver 30, Peyton Manning dropped back to pass and was intercepted by Hayden. It's just 2 plays into the game. The Raiders got the pick off of Peyton. So now Oakland would take over at midfield on the Denver 49. And they would end up getting the ball to the edge of the red zone. But their drive would stall on the 23. And Sebastian Janikowski came out to attempt a 41-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. And the Raiders put the first points on the scoreboard with the score Oakland 3, Denver 0. So now Denver took back over. They were on their own 25, and they would march downfield, and they would get all the way into the red zone. And then on fourth down, 4th and goal from the 2, they ended up bringing out McManus as their drive stalled on the 2-yard line. And it was a 20-yard field goal attempt. It was up, it was good, and this game was now tied at 3 apiece. So now the Raiders would take over, and they would go 3 and out. And so Denver would get the ball back on their own 35 with about 2.5 minutes left in the first quarter. And they would march down the field as they got into Oakland territory rather quickly. But on 2nd and 15 from the Oakland 20, Hillman ran for 5 yards on the final play of the first quarter as the first quarter came to a close with the Broncos on the Oakland 15. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was tied up at 3 apiece. So to start things off in the second quarter, the Broncos had the ball on the Oakland 15, faced with 3rd and 10. They'd only pick up 5 yards, though, with a pass from Manning to Demarius Thomas. And out came McManus to attempt his second field goal of the game. This one a 28-yarder. It was up. It was good. And the Broncos took the lead for the first time in this game with the score 6-3, Denver over Oakland. So now the Raiders would get the ball, and they would go 3 and out, and they'd punt it to Denver. So now Denver took over on their own 32. Peyton Manning dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Justin Tuck. So Peyton threw his second interception in as many quarters. So now the Raiders took over with about 12.5 minutes left before halftime. They had the ball on the Denver 12. And they ended up picking up 6 yards with a pass from Carr to McFadden. Moore then picked up 1 yard. And so now it was 3rd and 3 on the Denver 5. And Derek Carr hit Butler for a 5-yard touchdown pass that gave the Raiders back the lead as they were now up 10-6 over Denver. So now the Broncos took over on their own 20 with about 11 minutes left before halftime. They would march all the way down into Oakland territory as when they're faced with a 4th and 9, and they ended up punting the ball from the 41. So now Oakland would get the ball. They start off on their own 10-yard line. They would go 3 and out. And so now Denver would get the ball, and they would go 3 and out. And so Oakland would get the ball with about 6 minutes left before halftime. They had it on their own 20. And then on 3rd and 2 from the Oakland 40, Derek Carr dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Roby. And so now Denver took over on their own 47. And then 2 plays later, it was 3rd and 8 from the 49. Peyton Manning dropped back to pass, and he found Anderson for a 51-yard touchdown as Denver took back the lead by 3 with the score now 13-10, Denver over Oakland. The Raiders would then go 3 and out, and the Broncos took back over with less than 2 minutes left before halftime. They had the ball on their own 38. And then on 2nd and 9 from the 32 of Oakland, Peyton Manning dropped back, and this time he threw the touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders, a 32-yard touchdown pass that extended the Broncos' lead to 10 points with the score now 20-10, Denver over Oakland. Oakland would get the ball before halftime with just about 30 seconds left on the clock, but they would end up going 3 and out, and their punt brought the half to a close. So after 1 half of play, the score was Denver 20, Oakland 10. So to start things out in the third quarter, the Raiders would have the ball, and they would have it on their own 10. And then on 3rd and 8 from the 12, Derek Carr hit Barnes, and he fumbled as Jackson blew him up, and Harris recovered. And now the Broncos had the ball on the Oakland 18. A few plays later, it was 3rd and 2 from the 10, and Peyton Manning hit Julius Thomas for a 10-yard touchdown pass that made it 27-10 as the Broncos extended their lead to 17. So now Oakland got the ball on their own 25 with about 12 and a half minutes left in the third, and they would end up punting the ball after 3 plays. So now Denver took over on their own 19, and they would get into Oakland territory. And on 4th and 1 from the Oakland 32, they elected to go for it, and Peyton Manning threw a 32-yard touchdown pass to Julius Thomas to make it 34-10. So they only needed a yard, but instead they got 32 and the touchdown. So now the Broncos were up by 24. So now with about 7 minutes left in the third quarter, the Raiders took over on their own 18. But then on 3rd and 5 from the Oakland 42, Derek Carr dropped back to pass and he was intercepted by Ward. The play was challenged. And it was actually reversed, but it was still Broncos ball. So the Broncos took over on the Raiders 34 with about 4 minutes left in the third. And they would end up getting down into the red zone. And on 2nd and 13 from the Oakland 15, Peyton Manning dropped back to pass, and he hit Emmanuel Sanders this time for a 15-yard touchdown pass that made it 41-10. So the Broncos now led by 31 points. Now the Raiders took over with about a minute left in the third. They had it on their own 20. And on the final play of the third quarter, well, right before the final play of the third quarter, they punted the ball to Denver, and on the final play of the third quarter it would be Broncos ball on the 26. Anderson ran for a yard, and after 3 quarters of play, the score was Denver 41, Oakland 10. So now to open up the fourth quarter, the Broncos had the ball on their own 27. It was 2nd and 9. And an incomplete pass would bring up 3rd down, and a false start would bring them backwards, and another pass to Thomas, and Peyton wasn't even in the game at this point. It was such a blowout. They didn't pick up the 1st down, and they punted the ball back to the Raiders. The Raiders went 3 and out, and they punted it back to Denver. Denver would start off on their own 41, and 8 plays later, they punted the ball from their own 41. So now the Raiders would get the ball, they would go 3 and out. The Broncos then got the ball, they would go 3 and out. And now the Raiders got the ball back with about 4.5 minutes left in this game. They started off on their own 3-yard line in the shadow of their own end zone. And on 3rd and 2 from the 11, Derek Carr hit Moore for a 28-yard pass. And then on 1st down from the Oakland 39, Carr hit Rivera for a 25-yard pass to bring it across midfield into the Denver 36. Carr then hit Rivera for a 6-yard pass, and then Carr went to Brown for a 3-yard pass. It was 3rd and 1 from the 27, and Carr hit Brown for a 9-yard pass. So now it's 1st down in the red zone on the Denver 18. Derek Carr dropped back to pass, and he hit Rivera for an 18-yard touchdown that made the score 41-17. They would attempt an onside kick for why, I don't know, just for practice, I guess, as they were down by far too much to score that many in less than a minute. But with so little time on the clock and Denver recovering, they took 2 knees, and this game came to a close with the final score Denver 41, Oakland 17. And with the victory, the Broncos are now 7-2 on the season, as they're 500 on the road, 2-2. The Raiders remain winless on the season and at home. They're 0-9 on the season, 0-5 at home. And in this game, Peyton Manning was 31 for 44 with 340 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Derek Carr was 30 for 47 with 192 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. The leading rusher in this game was for Denver, C.J. Anderson. He had 90 yards off of 13 carries, and the leading receiver was Julius Thomas with 108 yards off of 11 receptions. The leading tackler in this game was Brandon Marshall of the Denver Broncos. He had 13 tackles, and Larry Asante and Charles Woodson of the Raiders each had 10 tackles. The Raiders and Broncos, neither team had a sack. Both teams each had 2 picks. It's the Broncos, Ward and Roby each had a pick, and for the Raiders, Tuck and Hayden each had picks. But it didn't matter, as Peyton would throw 5 touchdowns, and the Broncos blow out the Raiders in Oakland with the final score Denver 41, Oakland 17.